Welcome to the fantasy realm. What would you do if the man you trusted most, your loving husband, betrayed you, stole your company, and ended your life, only for you to awaken in the frail body of Lady Jane Grey, imprisoned in the Tower of London on the eve of her execution? This is Being Lady Jane by L.C Luna, an Isekai time travel romance where betrayal meets destiny, and a modern woman must rewrite a tragic chapter of history. Will she outwit fate, find unexpected love, and change her story? Or will history demand its due? Settle in, relax, and let's step into this tale of treachery, time, and second chances.
The morning began like all the others she trusted. Isabel Moreau woke before her alarm, the grey of London pressed softly against the windows of the townhouse. Adrian was already gone, early tennis he had murmured over dinner last night after their fight. So the bed was large and cool, and she lay there a moment longer, counting the 3 slow breaths her therapist had once prescribed for days that were nothing but meetings. She rolled out, tugged on a robe, and padded to the kitchen. The smell of coffee made the house feel inhabited. She ground the beans herself. She liked the way the tiny decisions of a day could begin under her own hand. While water hissed, she opened the pantry and took out the little glass jar of rose petals she dried herself each spring. Her grandmother had insisted a proper cosmetics woman should know plants before pigments. Isabel crumpled 2 petals into the cup, just sent, a quiet nod to memory. Her phone buzzed across the counter. A text from Adrian. Board at 10. Go get them, star. Dinner tonight? He finished with a gold star emoji. He loved that one recently. He'd started calling her Star instead of Belle. She typed back. Board at 9. You always forget. Dinner if I'm conscious. She ended it with 2 kisses. Then a second text popped in. Lucy, her assistant. Car at 7:45. I moved the lab walkthrough to 8:15. Serena confirmed the trust audit for next week. Isabel's stomach did a small, practical flip. The trust audit had been Adrian's idea, apparently on advice from his family's lawyer. Housekeeping, he'd called it, a word as harmless as clean sheets. She took a sip of coffee, bitter, then soft. In the bathroom, the mirror showed a face she knew how to tend. She tied up her hair and stood in the clean, bright light of the vanity to go through the motions that had always steadied her. At 40, her beauty treatments had become even more strict. She couldn't allow a pimple or a wrinkle on her face. Mist, serum, a moisturizer formula she'd been prototyping in the lab, a gel cream that sank like water but held like silk. She watched it vanish into her skin, thinking absently about its rheology curve and whether they'd pushed the emollients too far. The numbers lived behind everything she did. HLB values. Oxidative stability, the tug between elegance and function. When she applied her own foundation, she smiled. The coverage was forgiving. She'd designed it that way. By 7:40, she was in a navy dress and a camel coat, and the car was out front. London was a polite blur all the way to Moreau House, the headquarters that had been a textiles warehouse before her grandmother turned it into glass and light. The letters on the facade, Maison Moreau, were simple and steady, like her grandmother's voice had been. Inside, the lobby smelled faintly of bergamot and beeswax from the candle line. Staff drifted past, coffee and iPads in hand, offering greetings that made her feel, as she always had, like the center of something warm. Lucy handed her a folder as they walked. Press notes for Renaissance, still holding Friday. CFO flagged a small anomaly in the vendor invoices, but says it's probably just an accrual misclass. Which vendor? Isabel asked. North Point Packaging. I put a sticky where it looks odd. And Serena's audit? She asked. Serena was the auditor Adrian hired. Her office wants a list of all trust disbursements in the last 6 months, plus signatories. That seems thorough for housekeeping, Isabel said lightly. She flipped through the folder as they entered the lift. The numbers settled under her gaze like obedient birds. She noted the anomaly, a line item that wore a normal name with a slightly off price. It happened. It was her job to make sure it didn't happen twice. They went first to the lab. This was how she reset any day that threatened to get away from her. She started where formulas were born. The lab smelled faintly of alcohol and vanilla, clean and purposeful. 2 technicians in white coats looked up, smiling. On the bench, the Renaissance prototypes sat in neat row. Serum, cream, 2 lip oils that gleamed like stained glass. "Batch 7 failed cold stability again," said May, the senior formulator. "We think the fragrance is dropping out in the 3rd cycle." "Show me," Isabel said, and bent to the vials. The serum in the left-hand vial was lucid, lovely. The one in the right was clouded with a whisper of precipitate. She uncapped both and inhaled. The top notes were bright in one, muted in the other, the way a memory is when told by someone else. "Let's adjust the solubilizer," Isabel said, already doing the math in her head. "Bring the fragrance in at 0.35%, switch the solvent to one with higher polarity, and rerun cool heat cool. If it still blooms, we'll drop the fragrance load and build back with a natural extract for the story. Consumers never notice the difference if the story is true." May grinned. "On it." Isabel tugged on nitrile gloves and checked the lip oils. The colours were perfect. Soft pomegranate, sun-warm fig, and the glide on her wrist made her smile involuntarily. "We'll eat Dior's lunch with this," she murmured, and felt like herself. By 8:55, she was back upstairs for the board. The meeting room had too much glass, the city a constant chorus outside. Adrian arrived 2 minutes after she did, fresh from his shower, tie slightly askew in a way he knew women found charming. He kissed her cheek and took the chair to her left, where the papers were somehow already arranged with his name. "Star," he murmured sotto voce. "You look murderous in navy." "Appropriate for a board meeting," she murmured back, looking at him with love. They'd been married 11 years now, and had unsuccessfully never had children. Recently they'd been looking into surrogacy. The board moved briskly through the agenda. Q2 results, the Renaissance timeline, a sustainability initiative she'd fought for that would finally make the refill program scalable. Isabel tracked the conversation, fielded a pointed question about margin erosion, with an answer that pulled real data from the lab and real momentum from their social team. She didn't notice the way Adrian watched her when she spoke, or perhaps she noticed and filed it in the mental drawer labelled later. At 10:23, the meeting broke. People flowed toward the door. Adrian touched her elbow lightly. "Can I steal you for a minute? Roof?" The roof was their favourite place, when the world warranted softer edges. Making the sky garden had been her idea. A grid of planters with herbs and dwarf roses, a slender pergola, 3 benches, 1 ugly air conditioning unit she pretended not to see. She'd asked for lavender because she liked how it looked when it swayed. The lavender was winter stiff now, but the light was clean and the wind curious. "Only a minute," she said. "May's rerunning stability, and I want to—" "It's a minute." He smiled, the velvet smile that had opened doors for him since boarding school. No one was in the corridors as they walked. He was holding her elbow and looking around. This floor was usually quiet, with mostly executives in closed offices. When they stepped out, the air puckered her cheeks pink. She liked it. She folded her arms against the cold. "You should wear a coat," she said, and he laughed. They walked to the low wall where the city fell away in purposeful angles. London had never looked so young as it did when you were high above it and tired. Isabel inhaled the cold lanes of air and felt, briefly, the luck of it all. The company that was hers to steward, the team who trusted her, the quiet proof of competence that tucked itself into the bones. "Belle." His voice had the softness of linen turned in a dryer, something warmed and smoothed. "There's something we should finalise." "Serena's audit?" she said, watching a bus wink crimson 4 stories below. "Among other things." He slipped a folder from his jacket, slim, cream embossed with the lawyer's crest that always managed to look both old and predatory. "We've been working so hard to modernise the trust structures. It's time we moved certain legacy holdings under a single umbrella. Clean lines, less liability. You always say I'm the messy one." "I always am the one who picks up your drawers," she said. It came out kinder than she meant. She opened the folder. The documents wore the same old names. She saw her grandmother's trust in type. She saw Moreau Holdings in 4 places where it should have been in 1. Her eyes snagged on a clause that referred to a discretionary transfer mechanism. Her heart did the small practical flip again. "Who drafted this?" she asked. "Serena's people," he said quickly. "She's looped in." She nodded, pursing her lips, reading. In her mind, she ran through the map of her life: trusts, shares, voting rights. She'd built an institution to be boring on purpose because boring was safe. This was not boring. It was elegant, beautiful even, in the way wolves sometimes are. "I'll have my legal look at it," she said, closing it. "I won't sign anything on a roof." Her words final. Alistair had always been her family's lawyer. The old man worked for her grandmother, then father, now her. At 79, he was still sharp, but now only exclusively handled Isabel's affairs and no one else's. There were a few phrases she didn't understand in the contract. The first rule of business her grandmother taught her was to never sign anything unless you understand what each word and phrase really means. That rule, so ingrained in her, wouldn't be put aside for the husband she loved dearly. He smiled again, and there it was, the tiniest strain at the corners of his mouth. "Of course I wouldn't expect you to," he said. "Another time." A silence unfolded. He took her hand the way he had when they were 28 and impossible, when they decided to get married under a cheap May sky, because love felt like a hedge against statistics. His fingers were warm. She squeezed them once. Reflex. "I arranged a meeting with a surrogate for next month. We can talk to her. See if we'll mesh well," she told him, guilt pulling at her. The problem was hers. She always felt like she denied him something he really wanted. Years of grueling fertility treatments had only given them the heartbreak of one miscarriage after another. He nodded with a tight smile. "Do you trust me?" he asked. She looked at him because it was an odd question for a Tuesday. His eyes were a pale green, beautiful, as clear as sugar glass, his blonde hair tousled and rakish. At 40, he was only getting more handsome with age. She thought of mornings like this one, of lavender and lab coats, of the way he'd stood next to her at gala dinners and sold a better version of the company back to her when donors asked. She thought of how love is often just a series of small, unwavering yeses, one says out of habit. "Yes," she said, because the word had always been close to her teeth with him. He released her hand and stepped closer to the wall, as if to admire the view. She turned to set the folder on the bench, a gesture of temporary dismissal. When she turned back, he was nearer than before. The wind lifted his hair. He wasn't wearing a coat. "Do you remember," he said, voice almost dreamy, "that summer in Antibes, when you told me your grandmother taught you to make rose water with a kettle and a sieve?" She smiled despite herself. "I boiled half the stove." "You always make things beautiful," he said. The affectionate ache of it bloomed in her chest. Then he added so softly she almost missed it. "And now you've made it so very easily beautiful." Something fragile in the air shifted. The city sharpened. Her mind slid neatly into a different gear. "What does that mean?" she asked. He looked at her as if he were committing her face to an archive he visited alone. "It means we're at the end of something, Star." A sinister twinkle in his eyes bloomed, one she had never seen before. In another life, perhaps she would have laughed and said, "Don't be theatrical." In this one, something older than fear lifted the small hairs along her arms. She stepped back, and her heel brushed the low lip of the stone ledge. He watched the movement happen. His expression did not change, a 1,000-yard stare fixed in his eyes. "Adrian," she said, and all the years of his name were in it, their kitchen dinners, the kitten they did not adopt, the arguments that ended with his hands on her shoulders, and an apology unspooled like ribbon. "What have you done?" she asked nervously as he moved closer. "Just what you asked," he said. "I made it simpler." The wind rose. A napkin from someone's forgotten lunch skittered like a pale bird and went over. Isabel stared at him and tried to place the shape of the moment. Later, she would think she knew the shape. She would think it was a perfect circle, already closed, but standing there she only felt the vertigo of the present, the way the mind refuses the obvious until the body must act. She moved. He moved faster. A hand at her elbow, gentle at first, and then not gentle. The world tipped, a casual adjustment, as if repositioning a painting on a wall. She gasped, the kind of sound people make in elevators when they startle at a stop, and her hands went out, palms finding the stone. He leaned in, the warmth of him suddenly a geography she did not recognize. "You were never meant to keep it," he said, and it was distant, as though he'd already stepped away, as though he were telling someone else a story about a woman he'd once married. "Goodbye, darling." The push was not dramatic. It was small, the kind you'd use to send a child toward a door. She thought, inanely, that it wasn't enough. And then it was. The high heels she was wearing proved to be horrible at maintaining her balance. The sky opened like a mouth. The city leapt to meet her. For a sliver of a second she saw everything at once, the lavender bending to nothing, the pale square of the folder on the bench, the round moles at the base of Adrian's throat like punctuation marks. Wind slapped the breath from her. Sound became a torn ribbon. The glass and steel rose around her in a vertigo of clean lines, and there was no time left for numbers or stories or the way formulas settle when you do not touch them. There was only speed, and then there was stone and a flash of sudden pain, and then there was nothing at all. Chapter 1. The first thing I feel is the cold. Not the chill of a hospital morgue, nor the damp drizzle of city rain on glass skyscrapers, but stone. Ancient stone that seeps through thin wool and bone alike. My eyes flutter open. A ceiling of grey blocks looms overhead, old and heavy with centuries of silence. I suck in a breath, sharp and shallow. This isn't my penthouse. There are no sleek lines of my bedroom, no expensive high-thread count cotton sheets that should have still been wrapped around me after last night's fight with Adrian. The creak of iron hinges shatters the silence. The door to the cell groans open, and light bleeds in like a wound in the low gloom. Men enter, boots heavy, faces stern and distant, and between them they carry a block of rough-hewn wood. The sight of it drags me upright in the uncomfortable bed before I even understand what my body is doing, my knees knocked together, fingers trembling. What the hell is happening, and what on earth are they wearing? The block is set down in the middle of the room with a dull, final thud. "No," I whisper, realizing somehow I had asked for this, for the block to be brought in tonight. The voice that escapes isn't my own. It's higher, softer, nothing like my raspier one, honed from years of whiskey neat and straight shots of tequila. The syllables are soaked in a strange accent my tongue should not have known how to form. Memories hit me like the lash of a whip. Adrian's hands on my arms pushing me against the railing, my shock at what I knew was happening, the glittering cityscape below, the betrayal in his smile just before he shoved, and yet, layered atop that, flashes of another life, Latin prayers recited in a candle-lit chapel, needlework in dim chambers, the scent of ink and parchment, the long hours of reading when others had told me a girl need not. I stagger to my feet, clutching at my temples as two lives press down on my skull like a crown too heavy to bear. Lady Jane Grey. The name rises unbidden, foreign and familiar all at once. The knowledge of who Jane is comes as certainly as my knowledge that I am Isabel Moreau. I know the tower, the betrayal of my family, the brief crown forced upon me, the guilt, the fear. And I know, too, the sting of mascara, the formulas of serums I once made, the bright glass towers of my father's and grandmother's empire, the brand that bore my family name. The men look at me, waiting. One says gruffly, "Her Grace wishes to prepare." My legs move before I will them to. I stumble closer to the block, heavy skirts tangling around my feet, suddenly aware of the weight of clothing I'm draped in. The hands I hold before my eyes are not mine, no longer 40, no longer veined and manicured. These are slender, pale, young. They hover above the rough surface. This block was meant for my neck. For Jane's neck. Good God, she is to be executed tomorrow. The world spins. I clench my fists, remembering the sharp, horrible pain of my body hitting the pavement when Adrian pushed me. No, I've died once already. I won't die again, damn it. The men's faces are grave, their eyes fixed anywhere but on me. My stomach twists. It is the same dread I see in Jane's memories, the endless nights of prayer, trembling hands clasped together, begging God for deliverance. Yet underneath all that terror there is me, older, harder, unwilling to accept the meekness of a lamb led to slaughter. The world tilts, knees nearly buckling. I feel like a newborn animal on its feet. I steady myself against the wall, gasping through the haze. 20 years of boardrooms, glossy launches, betrayals, all of it hums within me, merging with Jane's youth and fear. But no, I will not die again. I shall not. I lift my head, voice rasping from somewhere deeper than lungs. Fetch me the Queen's confessor. The men pause. One, older, blinks at me as though I've spoken madness. My lady, the chaplain will be here at the appointed hour. You need only wait. No. The strength in my voice surprises even me. I straighten, shoulders squared, chin high. Tell Her Majesty's confessor I must speak with him now. My soul demands it. There's a flicker of unease. I see it. The way Jane's reputation for piety has given her an aura almost saintly. They won't deny me easily if I invoke it. The younger guard glances at the older. Finally, with a grunt, the older nods. Very well. I'll see if it can be arranged. But you'd best prepare yourself, my lady. The time draws near. He turns sharply, boots echoing, leaving me with the block. The younger lingers, nervous before following. The door groans shut again, keys locking me back into shadow. I sink onto the cold bench, breathing hard. My pulse is wild, my mind racing. Jane's memories tell me the end is certain. History itself confirms it. Yet my own experiences tell me situations can be bent, destinies changed. That was the motto of my family empire. If I can get the confessor alone, perhaps I can change my fate tomorrow. My mind drifts back to Adrian. How long was he planning to kill me? Or was it spur of the moment? He wanted me to sign those documents on the rooftop. I saw the irritation in his eyes when I didn't. I ignored it. I should have walked away. My trust in him blinded me. Had I been blind all along, he was always supportive, even through the miscarriages when I thought I couldn't go on. Was it all an act? Light dwindles in the room as I sit and think, trying to convince myself this is a dream. But which part is the dream? I don't know. There's a pervasive smell. Several, if I'm honest. One is me. Underneath rose perfume, old sweat clings. Jane has not bathed in a long time. Then there's the stench of the chamber pot in the corner. God, what I'd give for a hot shower and soap. The door creaks open again, hinges groaning like a funeral bell. A priest enters, older, sharp-eyed, robes Catholic though worn as if to avoid suspicion. He bows stiffly. My lady, he says, voice soft but tinged with surprise. I was told you called for me. I must admit, I am perplexed. It was my understanding you were a most devout adherent of the new faith. Why then would Lady Jane Grey seek out a Catholic confessor? My pulse hammers. Jane's memories tangle with mine, the sermons, the hymns, the fierce loyalty she bore to reform. Poor thing, but I am not her. I will not die for beliefs I don't care for. I've died once. It was quick but very unpleasant, and with that death, I shed my old certainties. When the person you trust most betrays you, all bets are off. I will speak plainly, Father, I say steadier than expected. I have no wish to die clinging to divisions that mean little to me now. I wish to convert. His brows lift, astonished. Silent stretches broken only by the faint drip of water in the stone. Yes, I press on, leaning forward, urgency sharpening my tone, and I wish to renounce the Protestant faith and embrace the old one. I wish to join a nunnery, if such mercy can be granted me. If there is still hope for my soul, then I would seek it cloistered in service, not cut down on a scaffold like a criminal. The priest studies me, disbelief fading to calculation. You would abandon all you have defended so fiercely? You, hailed as England's queen by Protestants? I would abandon pride and politics for my life, I answer swiftly. If God wills me to serve behind convent walls, then I would do so gladly. But I cannot believe my only path must be death tomorrow. At last he bows his head. This changes much, but to alter your course will take more than whispered confession. Then promise me this, I say, locking eyes with him. Tell Queen Mary. Tell her I wish to come to her in truth. Let her see I can be useful, even in silence. He hesitates, then nods. As you wish, Lady Jane. When the door shuts again, I collapse against the bench. A guard brings a plate. Enjoy your last meal, my lady. I look at the pale brown slop. Oh, hell no. I push it away, then, stomach growling, drag it back. The bland taste makes me abandon it after a few bites. If I'm going to die, it won't be with horrendous food in my stomach. But sometime later, hinges creak again. A voice I recognize. It's one of Mary's people. Lady Jane, come with me. Nerves almost undo me, but I rise. Down stone steps, into a carriage. The plush interior shocks me after the cell. Where are you taking me? I ask the man across from me. His face is frozen with disdain. He doesn't answer. Hours later, we stop. The grounds are familiar. My heart stutters. Whitehall. Inside, I'm led through candlelit halls upstairs. Finally, we enter a chamber. Behind a desk sits Mary scribbling. She looks up only once, then continues writing until she seals the paper and dismisses her secretary. Thank you, Sir Percy, she says, and he withdraws. At last, her eyes lock onto mine, sharp, steady. Now tell me, Jane, what are you really up to? I repeat, feigning innocence, my lips quirking. Nothing, Your Majesty. I would just really like to keep my neck and head together. And alive. Mary narrows her eyes, her gaze sharp as a hawk's. Really? That's a change from all the drivel you spat the last time we talked. I was foolish. And stupid. I shrug, letting a wry smile touch my lips. Let's just say I'm a new woman now. I wish to start over. I don't want power or thrones or crowns. I just want to not die. The last words escape with more passion than I expect, raw and unvarnished. Mary drums her bejeweled fingers on the desk, the rings glittering in the candlelight. A small, sharp smile crosses her lips. You take me for a fool, don't you? I know your father is up to something. You think me soft because I let your parents go free. Isn't that it? Ah, the parents of Jane Grey. Her parents. I press my lips together in disgust before the words spill out. I guarantee you, I want nothing to do with that worm of a man. Or his wife. My tone hardens, remembering the weight of Jane's memories, the endless prodding, the manipulation, the way they shoved an impressionable girl into the jaws of politics. She's only 17, I realise. 17. Good God. Mary's mouth drops open at my declaration. Well, 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 colour me shocked. First you renounce your faith, and now you renounce your parents. Yes, cousin, I answer without hesitation. They abandoned me first. I'm merely returning the favour. All this mess, every ounce of it, was because they overreached for power, their ambition, not mine. Mary's eyebrows lift, amusement glinting in her eyes. Oh, so you no longer believe yourself the rightful queen? I shake my head slowly, deliberately before speaking. My grandmother was your father's sister. That's the only claim. And look where it got me. A laugh slips out, dry and sharp. The whole idea was ridiculous to begin with. Honestly, I don't know how I was left to get that far. The last part I murmur more to myself, but Mary hears. She rises from her chair, eyes narrowing as she studies me. Her rosary dangles from her fingers, clutched tightly in her pale hand. When she steps closer, I realize the whiteness of her face is not from fear but from powder, the chalky cosmetics women in this age smear over their skin, laced with dangerous chemicals. I wince inwardly. Lead and vinegar. I know exactly what that mixture will do to her bones and blood, having studied toxic formulations once upon a time. So, she stops before me, tilting her head. You wish me to simply let you go, cancel your execution? I nod firmly. Yes, I do. And I promise you, I will not cause you any trouble. If anything, I wish to help in whatever you hope to achieve in your reign. She studies me in silence, her face a mask, though I see the flicker of calculation in her dark eyes. Slowly she moves back to her desk, each step deliberate, each moment stretching taut as a drawn bowstring. My breath catches as I stand there waiting. Finally, she releases a long, steady breath and rings a small silver bell. The secretary re-enters at once, bowing low. Mary is already writing swiftly on a piece of parchment, the scratch of the quill sharp in the quiet. She finishes, folds it, and seals it with wax before handing it over. Take this to Charles, she says coolly. There will be no execution tomorrow. She glances at me, trying to gauge my reaction. I can't help it. Relief floods me, dizzy and wild. I beam at her and curtsy deeply, the movement instinctive in this borrowed body. Mary's mouth twitches in a faint smirk. Then she adds, have a carriage prepared and send her to the furthest convent in England from here. The secretary, Holmes? Yes, that's his name. Hesitates, clearing his throat. Somewhere near the Scottish border, perhaps. Mary pauses, her expression sharpening. Scotland? Goodness, no. I will not have her getting ideas from that rowdy bunch. Send her to Falmouth, instead. I nearly laugh. Falmouth, Cornwall, at the very edge of England. I don't care where it is. It could be on the moon for all I care. I'm alive. I'll live. Thank you, Your Majesty, I say, my voice brimming with sincerity. Mary fixes me with a hard stare. You will not return to London. You will not leave Falmouth unless I order it. Fail to obey me in this? She lifts her hand, miming the slicing of a blade across her throat, and I will separate that head and body you are so fond of. I nod quickly, swallowing. Understood. But inside, beneath the layers of fear and relief, another thought blooms. Alive. Alive means time. Time means plans. And I've always been very good at making plans. She bends back to her letters, quill scratching swiftly across parchment, a clear sign of dismissal. Still, I cannot help but study her. This queen, who history will brand as Bloody Mary, sits before me not as a monster, but as a woman bowed under the impossible weight of an empire. Her crown is invisible in this moment, replaced by shadows under her eyes, by the stiffness in her posture. Your Majesty. The words slip from me before I can stop them. Foolish. Always foolish. But I have the curse of being an only child, pampered, spoiled, and forever prone to speaking my mind. I have some requests to make. Her eyes lift slowly, deadly, like a blade rising in a duel. My throat tightens. Shit. Your head still being attached to your neck isn't enough for you? She asks, her voice low, annoyance seeping into every syllable. No, I mean yes. I exhale hard, forcing calm into my tone. It's a matter concerning my husband, Your Majesty. At the mention of Guildford, her gaze turns stormy, thunderclouds gathering. His father and Mary are sworn enemies. The Duke of Northumberland's scheming put us all in this disastrous play. Tread carefully, Jane, her warning is sharp. But I push forward anyway. Guildford and I were pawns in all of this. He is young and desperate to please his father. I know his execution is scheduled for tomorrow, but, Your Majesty, please, give him a chance to redeem himself. It was his father and my parents who are the true villains. Her lips curl in scorn. I suppose you want me to send him off near the monastery where you'll be hidden away? What's next? Shall I pardon the Duke of Northumberland as well? Her tone drips with mockery. Shall I shake my head quickly? Oh no, none of that. Do as you wish with them. But Guildford, spare his neck, I beg you. I don't even wish to be reunited with him. If anything, I want a divorce. Her head jerks up, shock flashing across her face. I beg your pardon? I blink at her reaction. Honestly, why so aghast? Her own father practically handed divorces out like festival ribbons. Yes, I say firmly. Strip him of his lands and title too if it will soothe you, but please, spare his life. Mary leans back in her chair, lips pursed, her expression unreadable. A divorce, she says at last, can only be granted by the Pope, on grounds of adultery. Her tone is matter of fact, clipped. A cumbersome system. No wonder Henry decided to break free from that yoke. Religion is politics, nothing more. Mary is Catholic because her mother's family is Catholic, because her power leans that way. I could write a confession of my own debauchery, I offer quickly, grasping at the thread of an idea. Coupled with your great influence, it would be easy to have him sign off on it. She studies me for a long moment, eyes narrowed, weighing my words. Finally, is that all? Damn, she's good, I can't read her face at all, but I've come too far to stop. No. Her brow arches, sharp as a falcon's wing. Then by all means pummel me with more of your requests. The sarcasm is thick, but the fact she hasn't called the guards to drag me out yet, that means something. Your Majesty's cosmetics, I say carefully. Her expression blanks in confusion. I press on. They harm you. The evidence lies on Lady Bolton's very face. For the first time I see her flinch. Her hand rises instinctively to her neck, fingers brushing the powdered skin. I picture Lady Bolton's ruined complexion, the sores, the peeling flesh, the constant agony masked with thick paint. The memory makes me shudder. I tire of your presence, Jane, Mary says at last, her voice flat, bored. Yes, ma'am. Only one last thing. I bow my head slightly, then lift my gaze. You are the first Queen of England. I know the pressure you face, your allies, your enemies, your council, especially on the matter of marriage. That is enough, she snaps, rising to her feet, her shout echoing off the stone walls. I straighten instantly, heart hammering. Her hand lifts in final dismissal, and this time the secretary enters without being summoned. Sir Holmes waits by the door, stiff as a board. I will write to you, I say as I retreat, gathering what dignity I can. Please don't, comes her muffled reply, half hidden behind parchment. Outside, Holmes raises one sardonic brow. You have quite the nerve, madam. I nod solemnly. Please look after Her Majesty well, she needs support. He regards me dismissively and motions for me to follow. We walk in silence down the long, torchlit hallway, the scent of damp stone clinging to the air. Then ahead I spot a striking figure, a young woman with flaming red hair and vivid green eyes. Not beautiful exactly, but arresting. As we near, her eyes narrow on me. I curtsy lightly, unable to suppress a small thrill. This is amazing. The words slip out under my breath. Elizabeth, in the flesh. Yes, quite amazing how you've escaped death, she says coolly. I nod, smiling. I can't quite believe it myself. As slippery as your parents, she bites, her tone sharp. I give her a small smile. You would know. You and I are Protestants, yet I hear you attend Catholic Mass to also preserve your life, it seems. Her chin lifts, indignation flashing. Watch your tone. No, I will not, and I will not be ashamed for choosing life. My smile doesn't falter. Her eyes narrow further, her lips parting to reply, but Holmes interrupts, stepping forward. Your carriage awaits, my lady. I arch a brow. I am to go tonight? He nods once. Yes. What, no chance for a bath, at least? The shock in my voice makes him stiffen. Holmes straightens to his full, unimpressive height, his voice sharp as a blade. Do you wish to tell the Queen that you cannot depart because you wish to bathe? The memory of Mary's face when I last tested her patience flashes hot in my mind. I nearly cringe. No, Holmes. Of course not. I'll go to my carriage now. Very good, my lady. He bows curtly to Elizabeth before turning to lead me away. The carriage lurches forward with a groan of wood and a squeal of iron. I clutch the worn leather strap at my side as the wheels grind against the cobblestones, each stone jolting through my bones. It isn't anything like my sleek town cars, with their butter-soft seats and silent hum. Definitely no smooth German or Italian engineering here. This is a cage on wheels, lined with musty wool and smelling faintly of horses, sweat, and something sour. The carriage that had brought me to the palace had been far more luxurious, well-padded, and lined with velvet. This, by comparison, is a wooden crate with wheels. The tower's gates creak open behind us. I don't turn to look, I don't dare. If I do, I'll see the scaffold rising like a waiting finger of doom, the execution block carried in earlier still fresh in my mind. My hand drifts instinctively to my neck. For a moment I remember another kind of fall. The sharp pain as my body hit cold concrete after Adrian shoved me from that rooftop. My chest tightens. I wonder how that son of a bitch will weasel his way out of murder. Probably with the same smug smile he wore the day he took everything else from me. But that world is no longer mine. I have been thrown into another. Or perhaps chosen? Does everyone who dies violently tumble backward in time like this? No. Surely not. If they did, civilization would look very different. The priest opposite me clears his throat, breaking the silence. His hands rest on his lap, rosary beads twined around his fingers like ivy. His eyes are more curious than kind, as though he's not sure what to make of me. It is a long journey, my lady, he says at last, all the way to Falmouth. God willing, you will endure it. Endure, that is one word for it. The roads beyond London are cruel to wheels and crueler still to the bodies rattling inside them. Once we leave the cobbles behind, the carriage plunges onto muddy tracks. Every rut and stone pitches me sideways, tossing me like a rag doll. My ribs knock against the sideboards, my neck aches from bracing. By the third hour, my teeth chatter from more than cold. My body is rattling apart piece by piece. And yet it is not the jolting but the length that wears me down. In my old life, this would have been a 3 or 4 hour drive, a motorway, a coffee stop, maybe a quick stretch of the legs. Here, time is stretched like taffy. The horses plod, they tire, they change at posting inns where the smell of dung and hay clings to my skirts. People stink and so do I. Days blur together. The world shrinks to the sway and grind of wheels, the endless clop of hooves, the drone of the priest's prayers. His muttering grows so monotonous I start to fantasize about death again. Maybe if I died here I'd wake up somewhere with better transportation. I drift in and out of a daze, half Jane, half myself. I remember boardrooms and perfumes, laboratories where I tested pigments and serums, investors leaning forward with sharp smiles demanding profit margins. Then the images shift, Jane's memories slip through, her father's stern lectures, her trembling prayers. But they don't feel like mine. They sit in my skull like a movie I once watched, vivid but not lived. I inhabit Jane's body, but I do not feel her. Outside, the countryside rolls by in endless greys and greens, sodden fields, skeletal trees, villages that smell of smoke and manure. Children and farmers gape as the carriage rattles past, their mouths open wide, eyes following me as though they are watching a ghost trundle by. Perhaps they are. By the 7th day, I am certain I will go mad. My hips are bruised purple from the hard bench, my hands raw from gripping the leather strap. Even the priest has grown weary of his own piety, lapsing into silence. Only the horses remain steady, driving us onward toward Cornwall, toward the sea, toward whatever fate waits in Falmouth. And the smell. God, the smell. I reek. He reeks. The carriage reeks. I'm so miserable I want to cry. I've squatted behind hedges to piss and shit, wiping myself with leaves like some medieval Eve. My food is bland, Endless hunks of bread and watery broth. At first, I gagged. Now I eat without complaint. So much for the connoisseur of fine food and wine I once was. Even fashion has turned traitor. The corset I hadn't noticed when I was begging for my life has become a punishing tether, ribs squeezing against bruises, boning digging cruelly into skin. Whoever thought of these contraptions should be tried for crimes against humanity. And yet, through all the misery, one thought winds itself through me. Stubborn as ivy through stone, I am alive. I should not be, but I am.
Thank you for listening to Being Lady Jane by L.C Luna here on the Fantasy Realm. This has been part 1 of Jane's story, but her journey is far from over. Will she outwit history, find love, and change her fate? Be sure to look out for part 2 coming soon. If you enjoyed this tale, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next chapter in Jane's adventure. Until then, may your nights be filled with wonder and your dreams with stories.